I want you to imagine that you're making yourself a toasted bagel. Maybe get some cream cheese on there, you know you want to make it a good one. There is a very good chance that if you, for some reason, got pulled over by the police and were given a drugs test, that you might be found positive. Positive for drugs, even though all you'd eaten was a bagel. So, how is this even possible? Hello! Welcome to Brain Spill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and yes, this is an actual thing that actually happened. Not only did it happen, but it's also quite scary, knowing that you could be found positive for something which you know for a fact that you haven't had drugs. It's a scary prospect because if you get a false positive in a drugs test, it could quite literally ruin your life. The common test where these false positives come from is when someone is tested for the drug heroin, and no, I'm not suggesting that all bagels are laced with heroin. The reason behind it isn't actually that bizarre when you understand why this is the case, however. But imagine being caught with your shorts down after eating a bloody bagel. It's not even just bagels, anything can really. Muffins, cakes, it's anything that has poppy seeds in it. Yep, it's these little things right here, poppy seeds. This is the thing that can potentially give you a false negative on a drugs test, which is incredibly frightening, particularly if you just had lunch before going in for your drugs test. This can be the case for poppy seeds alone, poppy seed crackers, poppy seed bread, anything with poppy seeds in. New Zealand's Institute of Environmental Science and Research confirms that morphine can be present in urine samples when poppy seeds have been consumed, but it says that they only usually have to be eaten within 12 to 24 hours of a sample being collected. So it sucks for you if you've just eaten one and then taken a drugs test, because you will probably more likely than not come back positive. Which is very odd in that either there's something wrong with the process of the test, or there's something in the seeds which is akin to opioids. And, well, it's no surprise, because of the fact that poppy seeds come from the pods of opium plants. The opium milk that can sometimes be found in them has morphine. So, the next time you get into an accident, Dr. Tank recommends that you just eat yourself a few bagels and then you'll probably feel better about it. You know what? Just have a bagel and walk it off. You'll be fine. Doctor's orders. When baked goods are made with poppy seeds, the seeds are normally washed in the production cycle, washing off a lot of the morphine traces in the process. However, the process is not completely foolproof, resulting in instances where people can still get false positives on opioid tests. These must be some pretty sensitive tests to pick up even the smallest traces left in poppy seeds. You might think that this is all pretty funny, which in hindsight it kind of is, but the reality is that this can have severe consequences, such as one time where a corrections officer in New York had a test in 2015, and basically had the false positive. And well, the culprit was the poppy seeds. Yes, this man was almost fired from his job because he tested positive for drugs. The problem was that he'd never taken drugs. Aleza Paz, a 49-year-old man, was given a random drugs test at work and tested positive for 522 nanograms per milliliter of morphine and 358 nanograms per milliliter of codeine. Paz, who had never failed a drug test before in his 10 years working as a guard, was suspended, but it was soon reversed when a secondary test came back for a negative test of narcotics, meaning that while he tested positive, it was very unlikely he was actually on drugs. He was reinstated after a toxicology expert determined that for breakfast he had a bagel containing poppy seeds, hence the reason he failed his drugs test. Whoa, that's a close call. So yeah, it makes you wonder that next time you have to take a drugs test, why not just bring a bagel along with you, and if you get the result you don't want, just whip it out and say, "It's this, I swear it's the bagel." It might work. Yes, as scary as this is, even if you do get a positive test back, the traces are so minor that it is nothing compared to actually finding the drugs in your system. So you'd hope that there would be some measure of degree even if they found slight traces of opioids inside of you, and having a common sense approach, rather than a simple pass or fail. Governments have resorted to raising the testing thresholds as a result of these sorts of false positives from occurring in the United States federal government. who raised the workplace testing threshold for opioids from 0.3 micrograms per milliliter to 2 micrograms per milliliter, and the US military has even higher levels. Some drug tests now even go out of their way to ask the testers if they had eaten poppy seeds or taken any medication that might contain codeine. Yeah, I mean, this is one good way to try and weed out these false positives by asking this very simple question. But, like I said earlier, you are technically giving people an out if every single person that's taken drugs also admits to have eaten poppy seeds in bagels the day before. For anyone that frequents the midday binge-worthy TV content, you may recognise this phenomenon from the series Mythbusters, who tested this theory. One participant ate a poppy-seeded cake and tested positive for opioids. About half an hour later, the other participant ate 3 poppy seed bagels and tested positive 2 hours later. Both parties continued to test positive for 16 hours after the initial test. This just reinforces the idea that this isn't just some urban myth, but it is a real problem that has real consequences. This has become such a well-known thing that federal prisons have even stopped serving food that has poppy seeds in it to avoid any idea that poppy seeds might be the culprit for a positive drug test. I'm pretty sure that every prisoner and their aunt are going to blame those dang poppy seeds if they were served to prisoners. This isn't a clear-cut case, however, as there is of course much scientific debate about the idea, and because the fact it's not so clear-cut, maybe it's best just to avoid the poppy seeds altogether, and to avoid any false positives going forward. So the next time you're down at your local bakery and you see that nice bagel, maybe you want to give it a miss, just because, well, you never know when you're going to get a random drugs test. If you guys like that video, here's another one just like it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.